Yeah, I lost it with relief. I couldn't contain my giggling the whole way home. He was actually terrified it'd end up on the news or something. Let's move on. Oh my god. These are crazy. So, let's move on. What is one crazy story from work that you've been waiting to tell? Sorry guys, I'm just looking a little bit. Okay. A nurse here. I have a lot of crazy stories. One night it was close to shift change and I went to check on my elderly lady with dementia since I hadn't heard her scream in a while. Kind of like when a toddler is quiet, you start to worry. Anyway, I stood at the door of room 524 and saw her silhouette in a weird praying sort of position. I turned on the light and she was covered in feces. My jaw about hit the floor. Shit was on the bed rails, the floor, the wall, etc. I made a motion on the deck and said, "Come here, you need to see this." After some coating, I lowered the deck over. We both coughed. We looked at each other and decided day shift would kill us if we left her like this. Girl, she gon' throw it, the deck said wisely. I convinced another nurse to help us clean up this shit, and we had geared up in full Ebola stuff. My patient didn't react well. She screeched criticisms the whole time and tried to help. My supervisor stood in the doorway and laughed. Eventually, my batty old patient decided she'd had about enough of bath time and started throwing gooey feces. It's not even that funny. She looked at me and screeched, "You're going to hell." The image has forever been burned into my brain. Another time, I was clocking in and a naked guy ran down the hall screaming. I thought about calling in sick right then and there at the time clock. I walked past his room and on my way to huddle and saw him crying hysterically in his room. While a bunch of white coats tried to console him, one of the dogs was saying something like, "It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. No one's judging you. We all make mistakes." I read ahead. One time, my patient abruptly shouted, "Get up in here and wash my..." It was so loud that literally everyone heard it. I've never been so embarrassed in my life. If I bleeped that word out, it was coochie, but you know, P word. My god, I'm so immature. Okay. Another time, I was doing some mandatory stroke education and watching a video at the nurse's station. Then I got that universal creepy feeling that I was being watched. I turned around and there was an enormously obese, shirtless guy just standing behind me watching the stroke education video with me. Turns out he was violent and confused and somehow bungled his way to the nurse's station. He ultimately ended up taking a sedation vacation in the ICU. Damn. this. This is like the funniest stories. It's called TIFU, by throwing my steak out a window. Last night, my wife's boss from our brand new job invited us over for dinner. On the drive over, my wife reiterated many times to me just how important it was to make a good impression. I scoffed and arrogantly informed my silly wife that I always make a good impression. My wife's boss is a single lady in her 50s, so it was just the three of us. We chit-chatted over drinks and salads and seemed to really be hitting it off. She laughed at my well-timed, perfectly appropriate jokes, and my wife seemed pleased. Soon she brought out the main course, a nice big juicy steak for each of us. As I began to cut into my steak, I was discouraged to discover how undercooked the steak was. Now, I've had my fair share of rare steak. I prefer medium, but I can handle rare. This was several minutes on a hot grill short of rare. I probably could have resuscitated the cow I had tried. Instead, I sat there fidgeting with my knife and fork, worrying about how I was going to get away with not eating the steak. Claim veganism? No. Already feigned great enthusiasm upon seeing the steak. Just then, our hostess excused herself to the kitchen to take care of some dessert preparations. As I looked across the fancy dining room table at the open window of this third-story apartment, a cartoon light bulb appeared over my head. I knew I had to be decisive, realizing that she could return at any moment. I committed. I grabbed the steak with my hand, gently shook out the juice, and executed a perfect throw right through the center of the open window. Here's the big FU. The window wasn't open. It was the cleanest freaking window you've ever seen in your life. That is, until my mostly raw slab of steak slammed up against it and slowly slid down, leaving a trail of bloody juice in its wake. My wife, whose steak was a nice medium rare and was unaware of my predicament, turned, jaw dropped, and stared at me like I was an alien from another planet. This look then slowly morphed into more of a "there is no place on this planet you can never ever hide from me" expression of demonic anger. My wife's boss heard the thud of steak on window impact and came quickly. She took in the scene, the steak sitting on the windowsill, the blood trail, my empty plate, and then gave me an inquisitive, puzzled look. I just didn't know what to say. It felt like a minute of silence, but was probably 3 or 4 seconds. Finally, the best I could imagine I could manage was, "I'm sorry, I'm such a klutz. Is my teeth bleeding?" What the hell? It's not. Okay. I'm so sorry, I'm such a klutz. I don't know, I was just cutting it and it slipped, just as my wife